So as somebody who hasn't had an iPad in a very, very long time, I was really waiting for something from Apple in the iPad range to really blow me away before I pulled the trigger on these rather expensive tablets. And finally, in this latest iPad Pro lineup with the M4 chips, I feel like there is finally that something that I've been waiting for in the iPad lineup that made me pull the trigger. And for the last week and a bit, I have been dailying my new 11-inch iPad Pro with M4, and I'm going to tell you why I decided to finally purchase an iPad. Now, I'm not really going to talk too much about the specs of the new iPad Pros because let's face it, everybody else in the world has done a video on the M4 iPad Pros by now, but to just quickly go over the spec that mine is here. I've got the 11-inch, and of course it has the incredible Ultra Retina XDR display. So I've got 512 gigabytes of storage. It is in the space black color, and it has the standard glass because you can't get the nano texture glass, which is a brand new feature unless you get that super expensive 1 terabyte storage option. And for what I am going to be using this iPad for, that's not really something I'm concerned about anyways. So that's the boring stuff out of the way. If you want a full technical review of the iPad Pro, then you can watch any of the other incredible videos from MKBHD and all the other really good tech YouTubers out there to get that deep dive. But what I'm going to tell you about is the 2 reasons that finally made me pull the trigger on this iPad Pro. One of them, I know you guys are going to roast me on already, so let's talk about the other reason first, which is simply the portability and power factor of the iPad Pro. Like I said, I haven't owned an iPad in a very long time, but when I used to own one back in the day, the iPad was, simply put, a media device. I did nothing with it but watch content on YouTube, on Netflix, etc. But since that time, the iPad line and just the general functionality of iPad OS have really come a long way. Finally, it does feel like this is a contender for a replacement for your MacBook. And don't get me wrong, I love my 15-inch MacBook Air, but when I travel, it's still a 15-inch laptop that, despite it weighing not a whole lot, takes up a lot of space. If I could find something that could replace a lot of, maybe not all of, but a lot of the functionality that I do and can get out of my 15-inch MacBook Air, then that would be a win. And I have been able to do that with this iPad Pro so far over the past week, with a couple of caveats. If you've watched any of the YouTube shorts I've posted on my channel over the last week, they've all been edited on the iPad Pro. I record them with my iPhone or my camera, sync it onto one of the devices, and then it cloud syncs over to the other, and I can just edit. It's seamless when you are involved in that Apple ecosystem. This software is really harmonized in a way that makes it easy to transport content from A to B, and that's what I've been able to do. Files, emails, photos, music, it's just synced between everything instantly. I don't have to think about it. I can just go and jump into whatever I need to accomplish. Same thing goes for pages, for numbers. These are all synced through iCloud. It's just easy. I have not really missed much of a beat from a content production standpoint switching onto the iPad Pro. It's got Photoshop, it's got Final Cut, it's got pages, numbers. Heck, you can even run Canva if that's your jam. Now, this has been said by other reviewers already, so I'm not going to deep dive too much on it, but the other major part of my workflow is coding. I build websites. That's not really there yet with the iPad Pro. I'm able to write code, but it's really hard to test code because if you don't have a web server running on the iPad, you can't test PHP or other programming languages like that. So as far as that end of my workflow is concerned, the iPad Pro is not quite there yet in terms of replacing it. But for just about everything else that I need, this iPad Pro can do it. And for me, that's really exciting because based on everything I was seeing in the reviews, based on the hands-on I got quickly at the Apple Store with one before buying it, I was able to tell, yeah, this is going to get me like 75% of the way to not having to travel with my MacBook Air. And I have not traveled without a proper laptop since I basically started my working career. So it's been over 15 years. It just is a little bit of a freeing feeling to be able to take this iPad in lieu of my MacBook Air. And that experience is made so much better with this guy, Apple's new Magic Keyboard. Now, I never used the previous generation of Magic Keyboard, so I can't really give you a comparison, but what I can tell you is that being a MacBook user, this keyboard feels fantastic. Good travel, it's clicky, it's not like mechanical keyboard level, but it's good enough to do the job. I can easily slam through emails and respond to iMessages all day long on this thing, and it has a very generously sized trackpad for a mobile keyboard. Everything is very smooth and easy to use. I know some people say they don't love how using the trackpad, it kind of like snaps on to tap targets in the OS. You kind of get used to it after a while. The only thing I've noticed is a little bit of delay when cutting and pasting with this keyboard. It's like the shortcuts that you can do, which are great and definitely speeds up operation of the iPad. Using those shortcuts seems to like hiccup for just that little extra second. And although for some people that's not going to interrupt your workflow or be a huge detriment, for someone like me, who is, I guess, what you quote unquote call a power user, it's noticeable. The keyboard, I love it. I recommend it, especially if you want to use this for productivity. I mean, how else are you going to edit Final Cut videos using just the screen on an iPad? That's ridiculous. Just be aware, the software or the keyboard or one or the other or both maybe are just a little bit disconnected in the shortcut department. With all that being said, this device is lovely to work with and use on a day-to-day basis. The screen is gorgeous. It's incredibly bright, incredibly vivid, incredibly crisp. Performance, as I already said, incredibly fast. No lag whatsoever, other than that shortcut cut and paste experience that I've been having. Everything is buttery smooth. Productivity tools, to Lightroom edits, to Final Cut edits, even to my wife playing some games on this guy. It's a joy to use and interact with and experience and hold in the hand. The thinness is not to be understated. The feel of the materials is not to be understated. The quality of the display is not to be understated. It's an expensive device, but it looks and it feels and it works like an expensive device should 80% of the time. So with the portability factor out of the way, the second reason that I said it was time to get into the iPad ecosystem is because finally, I think the software is going to step up this year to a point where it blurs the line between tablet operating system and desktop even further. And don't get me wrong, because like I said, like 75 to 80% of what you can do on macOS is already here in iPad OS. It's pretty close. The apps, very, very similar. The uses, very similar. Shortcuts for the keyboard, very similar, if not identical. Yet despite all of that, there are still major shortcomings within iPad OS that slow it down from the perspective of being a pro device. It's called the iPad Pro. It should be able to be used by professionals to do what they need to do, and the OS shouldn't get in the way. But Apple's annual Worldwide Developer Conference, or WWDC, is just around the corner at the time that I'm recording this video. And this year, there's a slew of new rumored software features that are finally going to bring things up to par, a little bit closer to the desktop class, and really improve the iPad user experience and make things easier, faster, and allow you to just get more stuff done. And really, hopefully, taking advantage of the power that is in this iPad Pro. Because at the end of the day, the chip in this iPad Pro is far above and beyond what my MacBook should be able to do. Exporting out of Final Cut is like lightning quick. It is incredible, the performance and output that you can get out of this iPad in certain use cases. And I think if Apple truly takes things to the next level in the software, then this iPad is going to be a killer device in my productivity suite, and it is going to really give the MacBook a run for its money. Will there probably always still be some gaps between the two? Of course, because otherwise they'd never sell any more Macs. But hopefully that all means something big is coming for us iPad owners that's really going to take things to the next level for us. Like I said, you guys are probably going to roast me for that because it's a potential thing that might not come to fruition at all. But I'm optimistic. Again, why would Apple shove so much power in a mobile device like this and then not deliver anything that really takes advantage of that power? But what do you guys think? Let's have a conversation about these new iPads, as always, down in the comments. Have you upgraded this year? Are you like me and just getting into the iPad game for the first time in a long time? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you again soon in the next one.